talk about unconditional love with our adult children.
Yes, so one of my most successful, proudest roles in my life is as a mom. I learned more. I'm so proud of what I've done. It's the hardest and best thing I ever did. And one of the opportunities as a mom is to experience and share unconditional love. And while on that day one, it comes as naturally as anything, as they become adults, it's rare. We see it less and less. So I'd like to talk a little bit about some things to be mindful of and to be aware of, and the opportunities available in sharing unconditional love for our adult children. First of all, Karen, do you think it's possible?
Yeah, I do think it's possible. I think it's a realistic goal in this lifetime to be unconditionally loving. And our kids are a great person to practice with because we really truly want the best for them. Mm-hmm. And we may have had relationships with them that were challenging when they were teenagers, but now our job is done. So it's really like a prime time to step back and let them be themselves. Trust that we raised them and now it's their turn to make
good. One of the ways to look at how you're doing is just to ask yourself what role you take. You know, as you're interacting with your adult children and navigating this transition territory, we've got martyrs, right? I've been there. We've got the people like, well, I've given so much for you, right? And now you owe it to me. We've got the nursemaids who really enjoy being needed. And I will put my hand up and say that for at least the first 35 years of my life, I was the most overachieving codependent on the planet. I love making people happy. I have also since learned that most people thought I was really overbearing and controlling. No, I didn't. So do you just enjoy that nursemaid? Do you want to continue that? So there's the martyr, there's the nursemaid, there's the best friend, right? I just want to stay your best friend, but in that best friend role, I also want to reserve the right to tell you how to live your life. Mm-hmm. Really, that's not unconditional. There's a conditional part here that gets in the way of love. And I want to say that the definition for me for unconditional love is really loving someone as God's child, someone that was created by God, created by Source, recognizing the power, the capability of this human being to do anything because of who they are and what they are. Mm-hmm. So, as that being the definition of what it isn't is, I love you no matter what, so walk on me on a doormat, right? That's kind of a balancing act.
Right. So it's not being a doormat, and it's not being someone who knows best. It's this other role in the middle where you're there loving them and also letting them be themselves, letting them define themselves. And not being attached to how they show up in the world, because it's like, well, I'm going to love you however you choose to show up, and I'm going to know that you're on your path and you can't get off your path, just like I'm on my path, you're on your path. So there's a whole renegotiating period and letting go period as they find their footing as adults in the world, and as you re-know yourself in a new way as a mother.
I love that you called it a renegotiation period, because one of the best things that you can put in place here to manage this transition is boundaries. And Karen, you shared with me a study by Brene Brown on compassion, people who showed compassion. And the people who can show or demonstrated the highest level of compassion were also the ones that had the best boundaries.
And for as a mother of adult children, it's like that has been like a challenge for me. It's like I have a son who's 35, who's an investment banker in New York, and he definitely has, I feel like he's building his life, like he's building his own castle and his own kingdom, and he is in a beautiful relationship with a woman. And it's like, wow, I can, and they just got a dog, it's like their life is really coming together. But it's like, I can feel I get invited back as it suits him. You know, like he's in the building phase, and I'm kind of like standing outside going, let me help, let me help, let me help. And I have to tone that down and be like, well, Karen, just trust that if he wants your help, he'll ask you. But right now he's doing just fine without your help. So just be patient and wait for the invitation.
It doesn't mean you can't love him. It doesn't mean that you can't have that love, that same love that you had day one looking at the newborn. Mm-hmm. The only thing that gets in between that are conditions. When you say, I want to be able to show up when I want to, help how I want to, I want you to do it my way. And these aren't overbearing mother practices, these are human being mother practices. So we all do it, and being aware allows us to get back to that unconditional love that just feels so beautiful, and it's such a gift to experience and to give to our adult children. So we want to set boundaries.
Right, and so beware of if you're feeling like a martyr, like where's my gold star, where's my thank you, where's my this or okay, that would be not coming, and you don't get bonus points for working your ass off or doing so much for somebody else. It's like if you can't just give freely, which is unconditional, maybe just let them know, like, I'm kind of tired. I actually don't really enjoy babysitting, or I don't mind doing it, but these are the parameters. You know, maybe I'll come over when, babysit once the kids are asleep or whatever it is, like that. But to give up the thought that somehow you're going to get brownie points for suffering.
I have a story. I used to, both of my daughters have dogs, and when they've gone on a vacation or out just for the weekend, I'm always available. I will come get the dog, no matter what kind of dog it is, or if it's easy to care for, I will just bend over backwards to help out. And, recently, a few years ago, I was working in Boston for several weeks at a time, and I needed to be out of town, and I needed them to watch my dog. I had a new dog. She was a puppy, so she was a bit of a pain. And I wanted them to just work it out. I'm like, listen, I'm leaving on Friday. Y'all figure out who's keeping my dog. Their response to me was, Mom, we need some boundaries. To which I replied, oh, really? Because I think if we had boundaries, you would have had much more difficult. I was totally a martyr. Like, I'll show you boundaries. I was so upset, so offended. At the end of the day, it's a sign that I raised mature children who know how to say, Mom, this doesn't work. We got to work this out. So,
well, let's just pause here, because I think that and underline that. If your children are telling you they want to create boundaries with you, consider that a success that you should celebrate.
Well done.
Well done, Mom.
Yes.
Not only do they want to establish healthy, loving boundaries with you and others, but they're willing to articulate it, and they're willing to create that with you so they can have the best relationship possible with you.
They feel safe enough to do so.
They feel safe,
Yeah.
and also you're learning together how to have a new relationship with an adult where they can really feel honored and respected. And the more you do that, where you're like, you know what, I want to respect your boundaries. I want to make it work for you and work for me. Then you're really freeing them, and they'll learn to trust you as an adult.
Good. Yeah. Now, so we've got the boundaries. The other thing to be mindful of is something we actually talked about on another video, divine neutrality, right? And this is about attachment. As a mom, at some point, more than one point, we quite often get a picture in our mind about how things are supposed to be, and it's a very narrow picture about how we think their life ought to look and the things that they should do and that they shouldn't do. And in doing so, we get very attached, and we limit what's possible for them and for our relationship. So be aware of when that happens. Be aware of when you have too narrow a focus of what is supposed to happen and what isn't, what they can and can't do, what they can or can't be, whether or not they're going to get a degree and what in and who they're going to date, those kind of things. We get attached, and that can get in the way of your ability to love. So that becomes a condition. So take away those conditions. There's actually a practice called cutting the cord that actually addresses some of the energy that may still be there in your need and your desire to nurture and take care of them. But newsflash, they're adults. They've grown up, they've taken away most of that energy, they've taken on themselves the ability to define and see that. So just cut those cords, let it go, cut those ties, exhale.
And just as you release on your children energetically, just know that you're just filling those spots with love. Because a big part of our identities as mothers has been through that mother-child relationship. And so as we let our children be adults, they're not children anymore. Now they are adults. So we're having like a totally new relationship with them, and it can leave a gaping hole in our hearts as we let go and like, well, I guess nobody needs me anymore. I guess they're making their own decisions.
Well done!
Well done! And you know, it's one of these jobs, being a mother, that if you're successful at it, you successfully work yourself out of a job. So there can be this feeling of emptiness, lack, you know, we call it like being an empty nester, that can be kind of rough when we're not really expecting to feel so heartbroken that the center of our life just flew away. Like, goodbye, little birdie.
That means we did our job.
We did our job.
Got our jobs done. And there's no reason that you can't still look at him or her with the love you did on day one. And if you feel like you can't, keep in mind, consider that what's between where you are now and that unconditional love are conditions that you can let go, right?
Yeah, there's not, like, without those conditions, which are just thoughts and beliefs and perceptions and concepts, is just the love. I mean, really, only the love is real. So with this very important relationship, our relationship to our adult children, we can just lean back into the love. And if we're sensing that there's like a hole with the letting go process, find a way to fill that hole with your own love, your own self-love. It's so often we spend so much of our energy and our time taking care of others and nurturing them and attending to their needs that we forget ourselves. Because you're part of everybody. I mean, unconditional love is being kind and loving to everyone, and you're a part of everyone.
You. That's right.
So take on, like, where am I not meeting my own needs? What is it that I'm looking for them to fill? Like, oh, I just want them someone to talk to. Well, okay, where else can I find a friend, you know, a connection? How can I be loving towards myself and fill that?
So, like I said, if you're not feeling that unconditional love, the first thing that's in the way are conditions. The second thing is the love. The love that only comes from you and that can only happen, it starts with you. If you don't have love to give, you can't love unconditionally. So start with yourself. Make it okay. No matter where they are, no matter what decisions they've made, even if they come back and say, Mom, I'm going to do it my way, well done. Okay, so there's a really beautiful practice that you can take on that will enable that self-love, and that's acknowledgement. Identify the things that you want to be acknowledged for, that you have accomplished with this human being. The fact that I got both of my daughters through high school, my oldest threw pencils at me as we studied for spelling tests, right? I mean, we've been through it, all of us. Like I said, it's the hardest and best thing I've ever done. So acknowledge yourself. Acknowledge the dedication that you've given, the sacrifices you have made. Acknowledge the human being that you have raised. And love yourself. And open your heart and see what's next. Unconditionally, no matter what.
Well, this is your turn. This is your time. You're here for a reason. Your kids are doing great. They've made it to adulthood. You've done your job. And so now it's your turn.
Yeah. You don't have... So fly, ride the wave of good fortune. Well done.
Well done.
Yeah.